Hello, everyone. Welcome to Season 1, Episode 4 of the Open Door Podcast. I am Chelsea.
I am Bedford, and we're happy to have you guys. This is fun.
This has
been
honestly,
a whole lot of fun.
It has been so much fun. We look forward to it every single week.
Yep.
And there's a lot of things in our job that we do that are like fun, but they're stressful. And this one just doesn't feel stressful. Like this
doesn't feel like a weight. Actually, the process kind of feels heavy of getting it all done like that.
Edited and then put out.
Yeah.
But part of it, I think, is just the fact that like we get to have an uninterrupted hour-long conversation, just the two of us, without our kids. And that doesn't happen very often. So I like it.
It's made for a whole lot of fun. Question though.
Yeah.
Something that you're not ready for.
Okay.
I was thinking about it last week. Actually, this week. I'm not sure what justifies a season in our podcast format. Like, when do we change from Season 1 to Season 2?
I don't know. I think based off of the podcast shows that I listen to, some of them have hundreds of episodes. Some of them have 25 episodes. Season? Yeah, I think that it just kind of depends on how fast you're cranking out episodes. I think so. It's probably something that we need to research, but I would say maybe 25 episodes would constitute a season.
Because in my head, I'm like, no, it was like in my head, I was like, for sure it's changing at the end of the year. Right?
No,
Annually?
I think it's a number of episodes.
But that feels like too arbitrary.
No.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the rules are.
Because then people know how many episodes to expect in a season.
I have no idea.
That would be a million episodes because then we would be doing it for a whole year. Maybe we just get rid of all the seasons
and just episode numbers.
No. Let's move on.
Okay. Also, we've
Veto.
got anybody that listens to all of the episodes, they got to have a name. And I don't know what that is. Maybe some crowd participation will help us identify what that is. But like, I feel like, that'll happen naturally. We could probably move on.
Yeah.
We could probably move on. This week was nuts. And it was nuts for a lot of fun reasons. Now, you guys are getting this probably 2 weeks out, maybe 10 days from the end of this shooting. But it was our birthday week.
We also talked about this on the last episode.
Did we?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that we did.
Yeah. We said that we were going to celebrate our birthdays coming up.
So what did we end up doing? Oh, no. Every time.
We try so hard to kill all of the flies in this house before, and then there's always still a fly somehow. I don't know how it happens, but, for Bedford's birthday, we went golfing.
Yes, we did.
And that was super fun. And then for my birthday, Bedford took me to the Cheesecake Factory for lunch. That's my favorite restaurant. And mostly because I know that the Cheesecake Factory is overwhelming for a lot of people because they have a large menu. But I have found things on their menu that I love. And so because of that, I just go. I get the 3 things that I love. I get the starter I like. I get the main dish that I like. I get the cheesecake that I like the bread. And I love that meal as combination. So we went there. We went to the mall. Did some window shopping.
Before you go off, though, I need to say that I am going to give myself an award for being a fantastic husband. Because if there was a restaurant on God's green earth that I would never go to again, it might be the Cheesecake Factory.
That's great for you.
But because I love this woman so very much, I go there at least once or twice a year.
Yeah, you go there for my birthday and then sometimes Mother's Day. And to be very honest with you, that is your job. So yes, you are a wonderful husband, but it is your job.
I want kudos.
I just told you are a wonderful husband. However, on my birthday, I'm going to go wherever I want, and you're just going to come with me.
Yeah. I just feel like the menu's too big. You can't be good at everything.
That sucks for people that want to order something new every single time that they go somewhere, which is you. I can't
even find the thing I ordered last time. That's why, because I'm like, I don't even know what it was. Did I even like it? Probably not. I'm like 0 for 6.
I love it, and I don't care what anybody's. Okay. I don't care. You're going.
All right, moving on. What did we do after that, though?
We went to the mall and we did some window shopping, and then I came home, and to be honest with you guys, I wasn't feeling very good, and so I took a nap, and then I read my book. I cleaned my house a little bit, did some laundry. That was it.
So it made for a good day. Hopefully you enjoyed it.
Yes, I did. I mean, I would have appreciated feeling better, but I did enjoy it.
Yeah. And then we had our baby's birthday, which I love that little princess.
Yeah, she just turned 3 and is a whirlwind of fun and excitement and joy and a little crazy. But that's okay. We love her anyways.
Just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
She's a bit, she's a bit much. But she had a pink, was it pink unicorn? Oh,
she just had a pink birthday party. Anytime you asked her what she wanted for her birthday, she just said pink.
Yeah.
That's
and it was a smash hit, and now we're here.
Yeah.
So we survived. We made it to the next year of life. I made a goal. I don't know if you have a goal for your next year of life. My goal from the next year of life, okay, for my 37th year, I had to think about it, is to not get injured. I spent all of 36 with the pulled hamstring.
Now your calf.
I broke, look at my pinky. Was that this year? Oh, that might have been 35, but I've been nursing this pinky. My pinky's all skitty wampus. It's janky. And 37, I'm going to still do all the things that I like to do, but I'm going to be drinking water. I'm going to be doing some stretches.
Taking some fish oil.
Fish oil, men's, what is it, every day just for men's, whatever that is? Multivitamins. Okay, we are looking for sponsors, so multivitamin companies, huh? Get at me, dog. I got you. I'm not getting injured this year. What are you doing this year?
I don't know. I have a lot of big goals for this year. I want to grow the podcast. I want to find like a good routine for my exercise, and because exercise just really isn't motivating to me right now. Like I work out, I move my body because it's good for me, but I don't necessarily love it. So I want to get into a healthy swing of things with that. I want to continue growing my business and
maybe start golfing.
And no, that's not on my list.
All
okay.
right.
You could try. You shot your shot, but
it's always next year.
Yeah, I have lots of big goals for this year, and like I want to buy a new house.
Whoa, we're doing that this year.
Maybe at the beginning of the next, but
you heard it here first.
I would love a little bit more space. I love hosting people at my house, and our house just really isn't conducive for that.
That's fair.
Lots of big goals this year.
All right. Well, here's to dreaming big. Like, I'm just going to try not to get injured, which is a stretch. Okay, guys.
It's
honestly been rough for me because I think I'm younger than I am.
Well, and you have bad knees.
I have bad knees, but I did really good at improving that. That was a goal last year. My knees actually don't hurt. It's everything else now. So,
yeah, absolutely.
Life is going to be great. So, all right, let's jump in. We're going to jump into the unnecessarily long-named segment. Things that I found random things that I found in the news. It's so long I can't remember it.
Yeah.
We've got a couple of stories about parenthood.
Okay.
This is the parent edition of the unnecessarily long-named segment.
Okay.
First story is
these always freak me out.
They should.
Okay.
These ones aren't great. I'm not gonna tell you that these stories are. I mean, do you want one that ends well, or do you want the sad one first?
Just the sad one. Let's just get that out of the way.
Okay, let's get it out of the way. Okay, super sad one. It is about Kathy Griffiths. Okay. Kathy Griffiths is
not to be confused with Kathy Griffin.
Not to be confused with Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffiths is a mom who has a troubled child.
Okay.
This troubled child killed Kathy.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Now, the reason why this is kind of random and I was like, that's so crazy, is this child also killed his other parent.
Okay, great. So
but not at the same time.
Oh.
So like 4 years ago, he killed his dad, went to trial and everything. Essentially, they didn't have any proof to prove that he wasn't acting in self-defense. Okay. It's like, no, I had to kill him. And then several years later, now his mom... and this is real sad. His mom actually posted on Instagram the day before she got murdered that sometimes the right thing to do is to give up.
Oh,
and that's the
gosh.
heroic thing to do.
Ugh. Parenthood is so hard.
It is.
Because here's the reality. Like, obviously, based off of that Instagram post, she has been experiencing this with this child for a long time. Like... And because you hear stories about this kind of stuff, like they try getting them professional help. They try, and you'll hear about parents that like take their kids in, they let them live in their house, whether it's drugs or what other things. They let them live in their house, they slip up, maybe they're not safe to be around, so they kick them back out, then they clean up, and then they let them back in. And then, because as a parent, you want to do that. You want to continuously give your children opportunities to succeed and, like better themselves. And so it sounds like from that Instagram post, this was not the first time, the second time, the third time. Like she's probably been doing this child's whole life. And then in the end, it kills her.
I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Okay. I just don't feel like there's a devil's advocate.
No, there is a devil's
here.
advocate because I think she knew that her son may have killed her dad.
I mean, here's the thing though, and this is where you have to because the mental health like support that you can receive especially in the United States, I mean, that's where we are, right? And but the help that you receive for mental health and the support here is just so incredibly poor, and there's not a lot of resources. I mean, okay, I'm not going to say that but like you hear stories about that guy that shot up the movie theater for The Dark Knight, in 2008. And you listen to his mom, and his mom was like, I was begging for help for years. Like I woke up, he was standing in my room with, a knife, and I had to start like locking my room at night. I talked to doctors. I tried to get him put into a mental institution. I tried so many things to like forcibly medicate him. I told people he was a danger to society, and nobody did anything. And so I think that the problem that you have is that like we don't know really, at least for now, if this mom has like a very similar history with that, where she like, maybe sometimes his dad was abusive, right? And like, but also maybe his dad probably was coming undone if his child was constantly having these like episodes, right? So there's so much, but like maybe the dad was abusive, and also because it can be both. Maybe the son
I like to make it black and white, but
No, I am a big fan of it can be both, but maybe it was both. Maybe the dad was abusive and the son was mentally, emotionally unstable, and so like, really, where do you draw the line there, especially as the mom, to lose your husband and then also lose your child, and then that feeling of like, maybe I can still save my kid? Like, I don't know.
Well, it turns out she can't.
No, and that is so sad.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask you a question. Okay, one of our kids kills somebody, you turning them in?
Yes.
You are?
Yes.
I have a hard time. I have to know who they killed. If it's some rando,
no, here's my
blood
thing.
Over everything.
Okay, I feel like, you know what? Let me rewind.
Okay, go ahead.
I feel like, let's say someone is attacking our daughter.
No, you don't get no context.
No, without context, I'm turning them in.
No context, you're turning them. I'm like the exact opposite. No context, I'm keeping you home.
No, because
I feel like I know my kids well enough right now that if anything happened to that, it probably was well deserved.
I guess the reality is that zero context is not real. Like, there's no world where my kid's going to come home and be like, I killed someone, and then I'm not going to ask questions or know anything about it.
I'm not asking no questions.
100% I'm asking questions.
Why do I want to add context?
I don't want to live in a house with someone that's dangerous.
My kids ain't going to kill me.
Really?
Yeah, they love me.
Okay,
to a degree.
But seriously, we're having a conversation right now about how a kid killed his parents.
Well, that's different because he actually did it the first time.
Okay, but yes, he's done it two times.
I will say this.
So all I'm saying is that if a child is dangerous, like if a switch is able to be flipped to where they are capable of killing someone, I don't want to be in the house with that person. So I'm 100%, I want to understand the context. Now, if you were being attacked and whatever, then maybe we're having a different conversation. But truly, I think that yes, if you are in the wrong, I'm turning you in. Also, because I'm not going to have someone who is a danger for other people living in my home and out in society. I'm not doing that.
Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and take a second here. Riker, actually, we got to start with Jax. Jax, Riker, Maya, Naomi, Sloan. Don't tell your mom. All right?
I'll find out.
No, you won't.
Yeah,
okay, we hold it down for our own. Now, the only thing that would change my mind is if they killed like a family member or someone that I like know, right? then I'd be like, ooh, that's now you're in the
No.
circle of trust.
We could have this conversation for a really long time, but like this conversation actually has come up for us multiple times because we were talking about the Susan Powell case and how Josh's
family was loyal
siblings
to
and
the
his
soil.
dad like for sure knew, and they just didn't say anything.
That's how you hold it down for blood.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a great
crazy.
example.
That's freaking crazy.
It is
I don't
crazy.
No, that's crazy to me because like if my sibling killed their spouse and I knew it, I'm calling the cops. Because look at what he did to his kids. If someone would have called the cops, like, so there's nothing that you can say that is going to tell me that keeping someone that is dangerous in your
First
circle.
off, we don't know that he did it.
Okay,
In
let's
America,
just move on. What's your next
we are
thing?
innocent until proven guilty.
No, I can't even have this conversation with him. This conversation is not happening.
I'm not sure that he did.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, so I'm just saying until you're proven,
100% he did.
he definitely killed his kids, but we don't know what
He
happened.
definitely killed his wife.
Innocent until proven guilty. That's how it
No,
works.
his kids drew a picture. No, I can't.
Okay.
Next. Next.
Ooh.
Next.
Tender
Next.
topic. We're gonna have to bring that one back.
No, we
Okay.
talk about it. No.
Next parenting thing
Okay.
that is kind of on the same level.
Okay.
Okay.
Gosh. Took a dark turn this
Yeah.
time, everyone.
Okay. Miriam, she's a Mexican lady,
Okay.
old Mexican lady.
Ooh.
Her adult child
I
gets
like her already.
kidnapped.
Okay.
Right? The kind that makes empanadas
by
and is
who?
super nice. The cartel.
Oh, geez. Okay.
Okay. The cartel comes to him and says, hey, we want to, we want to hold this lady for ransom, this, that, the row.
I just want to know what they think this little old Mexican lady has the money.
Turns out the cartel didn't really care. They killed her pretty early, and then
gosh.
she was found in a mass grave. Okay.
Okay, so it didn't matter. They were just trying to take
Yeah, they were
this
just trying
tiny
to take
old
whatever
woman.
it could.
Okay.
Okay. Now Miriam's been working with the police, and she's finding out that hey, it's not working the way that I want it to. They're not doing enough.
Yeah.
The cartel's too strong. All right. So she starts to say,
well, not
you know
to
what?
mention the fact that the police probably have.
They got a lot to deal with.
Well, and not only that, but with the cartel, there's probably actually a lot of inside
There's
stuff
corruption
going on.
Okay, so Miriam, she decides to go incognito. Okay. She goes full on. She starts getting these different aliases, 30 different
Disguises.
aliases, disguises, right?
Yep.
She becomes the empanada lady at the corner. She becomes a caretaker for some of these people. She becomes the lady that does the audits, like goes through and knocks on everybody's doors to find out how many people live in the facility. And she builds a file and captures all 10 people that were involved in her daughter's murder.
And she doesn't kill them.
She doesn't actually capture them. She builds such a robust file that she delivers it to the police, and they really have nothing else that they can do. This file includes like confessions,
Photos.
like yeah. So
Good for her.
she goes, yeah. She said, you know what? I'm gonna fix this myself, which is awesome. I feel like I would hope my mom would do that, and I think depending on what kind of mental state, I can understand why parents wouldn't do that because you kind of give up. I love my kids, and I can see that being difficult. But I'd hope that I'd be the kind of parent that's like, nah, the police won't do it. I will.
Well, you just have to have some type of closure,
Yeah.
As much closure as you can get in a situation like that. I kind of hate the term of closure or like the idea of closure when someone passes away because like, how do you ever get that? But as much like, is reparation the right word?
Yeah.
Like
Justice.
as much justice as you could possibly experience, that is the only way that you would ever get something like that. However, I do feel like I would like the story better if she was killing them.
Yeah, but she old.
Feed him something poisonous. I don't know.
I don't know.
You're the empanada lady.
The empanada lady would be able to. Honestly, 9 times out of 10, an empanada lady could get me if she wanted to. Would you like some empanadas? Would I ever?
There's a tamale
Boom,
guy
it's
that
over.
comes and knocks on our door every once in a while.
I don't even eat half the tamales.
But he comes here because Bedford was kind one time, bought some tamales.
They were good.
They were good. He comes back all the time, and Bedford is a sucker for those tamales.
I'm like, yeah, I want tamales. And then I'm like, we already had dinner. And then they go to my fridge. And I'm like, frick. 2 days later, I'm like, I have 4-day-old tamales or whatever.
Yeah, you do that. I'm not a tamale fan.
Yeah, tamales, empanadas. Give me something Mexican, and I'll find you where happiness is, man. That
See, she could poison him.
100% she probably could. Miriam, step your game up. Also, I hope you never have to go through that again. So don't.
Because, like, again, they're in the cartel. And corruption-wise, like, are they really going to stay in prison?
So
Do you know what I'm saying? Like the
Actually,
only
a good portion. This took so long that several of the other cartel members that were involved,
died.
no, they like left the cartels and like tried to live better lives and
Oh yeah,
stuff
no,
like
I
that.
don't care. Still go to
So I
prison.
kind of feel for them, but
No,
kind of
you
don't.
don't. No,
Look,
you don't.
look,
That's
I
like
feel
the
like
people that were Nazis in
I don't. Okay,
World
you're
War
right.
Two,
You're
and
right.
then later they're like, "I'm a good guy now," and it's like, yeah, because the war's over and you decided that what you did was wrong. Like, I don't care what you have to say. No,
You're right.
Still
That's
bad.
fair. That's
Okay.
fair.
All right, so today's episode is for the step parents in the room. And before we do that, I want to make a quick clarification because sometimes these terms get used interchangeably. But we refer to our family as blended and mixed. And blended generally is referring to someone who has a child from a previous relationship and brings them into a new relationship, right? So
Okay.
whether that's a yours, a mine, or an ours, or both. And then mixed generally refers to interracial, mixed race, multicultural, those types of things. So today, though, we are focusing on some of the ins and outs of being a blended family. So that being that I had Jax before Bedford and I got together, and now Bedford is a stepdad, even though we don't use that term. Jax is his son, and even when he introduces him to people, he'll say like, "This is my son." He doesn't say, "This is my stepson," right? So,
Oh my gosh. So let me plug in real quick.
okay,
Remember Daddy Donut Day in
Yes.
kindergarten?
yes,
Okay, so I show up to Daddy Donut Day now, and his dad actually showed up, which was a surprise. We weren't ready for that. And we go to Daddy Donut Day, and he goes, "Hey guys, these are my dads." And I was like,
it was a little bit confusing. And not even to say that like there is anything wrong with that situation. It's just that obviously Bedford and Jax's dad don't have a great relationship.
"We don't even like each other, really."
And here's the thing though, it's actually not negative. It just is non-existent really.
Yeah.
So then to
By
be
design.
introduced in a scenario where you are now both his dads and then to have that interaction,
It was just awkward.
or
I
have
felt
people
like,
have that be the perception of your relationship, right?
I
would
felt like
make
I
things-
needed to fix it, but also I couldn't fix it because I didn't want to fix it in a way that would be disrespectful to those that actually have two dads.
Correct.
Even though Jax does have two dads, but you know what I'm talking
But
about.
that's what
Like,
I'm saying is like you do not have, Jax does not have two dads who are married and are caring for
Yes.
him, right? And so in that situation, those conversations would be quite different because you were talking about two people who are in love and love their child and are, raising this child together. They all live within the same home. And so those conversations would reflect that. And so, but if you're talking to two people who live in completely separate
Yeah.
homes, they don't have a relationship at all, that conversation then looks a little bit different. So that's an interesting way actually to segue into this conversation is like some of the things that you or we experience that are different than maybe a biological family and maybe what that looks like for Jax, right? So I wanted to do an episode because we've talked about Jax and I and like our experiences and our feelings and what we went through to get to where we are. But I think that being a step parent or a bonus parent is really hard. And I don't think that it gets a lot of like attention and you don't get a lot of credit. And so I wanted to maybe just talk about what some of those things are, or what some of those things are that are unique. And so maybe this is a perfect example is when our son has Daddy Donut Day or when they're doing like, something with their dad, Jax is like, I want to take both. Right?
or I think one time we showed up to, it was the first Christmas sing, right? Get together, kids all sing songs. Their voices are terrible, but it's super cute, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, you get.
I
there,
mean, they're kindergartners. It's
right.
not like
Well, we had to listen to the whole school, and I feel like there needs to be a reform there. I don't want to listen to 6th grade, 5th grade, 3rd grade if I only have this kindergarten, but
Sure.
that's a different story. But we show up, and he's like, "Hey, Bedford, thanks so much for calling," because he calls me Bedford, calls me Dad, whichever feels
It's
best
very
for him.
interchangeable right now.
Supernatural, and it's always been that way. And then he was like super bummed. It's like, "I wish my dad was here." And I was like, "You know what? That's fair." Like, so for me, I had to not be selfish because I was like, "Come on now, like by all measures, I pay for everything. You're at our house every day except for Thursdays and every other weekend. You're on our insurance, like by all the measurables. I'm dad. I feel like that counts. But it didn't. And I understand that. Like, but it first was like a kick to the gut. It was like, yo, I took off work to listen to all these other kids sing and y'all ain't even singing good. And you want your dad?
Yeah.
I was like, come on. Like,
well, and I think that that's the kind of stuff that cuts really deep. And like we've talked about this on a previous episode, right? Like trying to sacrifice your own feelings a little bit for your child's health. I remember there was one Mother's Day that, and this segues for you. Oh,
I remember.
If you can see Bedford's face, then you know that like
this was not a great Mother's Day.
It was not a great Mother's Day. So, and we can split this in a second, but Mother's Day, Jax is always with me, and Father's Day, he is always with his dad. And I feel like that is very appropriate. Yeah. However, it sucks for the other parent, right? Like, so for you on Father's Day, because again, Jax is with his dad every other weekend.
Yep.
And so he's with us 98% of the time, literally. And so to not be able to celebrate Father's Day with all of your children that you're used to having, like that's difficult. But there was one Mother's Day where his dad had brought him home first thing in the morning. And when they walked up to the door, he was crying. And I was like, oh no, what's wrong? And he was like, and he was calling for his stepmom. And I was like, okay, like I'm trying to like calm him down, and he's like, no, I don't want you, I want her. And I was like gutted by this because I was like, it's Mother's Day. Like I was so excited. At this time he was our only child. I was so excited to see him. He had been away for the weekend. No, at that time it was every other week because he was doing every other week before school. So he had been gone for a week. I was so excited to see him, and then he got home and all he wanted was her. And I literally was gutted. But again, it's one of those things where you have to sacrifice, like, because he's feeling something and we're both feeling something, right? But he's 3 and I'm 25. And so who really has to put their feelings aside? It's not to say that I didn't go hide in my room and cry.
Oh, right? She did.
I did.
It was an awkward day. I was like, oh, this is great. Dinner is ruined and it's 9 a.m.
Yeah.
Like, it was so bad.
It was rough.
It was a rough day.
It was rough. But for him, you kind of have to flip it around and be like, I'm so sorry, buddy. Like, I'm sorry that you're sad, you know? Like, I bet you love her so much. And then also in that same breath, be grateful that he has someone in his life that he loves that much, that he wants to be with, right? And so it like cuts you, but at the same time, there are things to be grateful for. So like in your situation when he was like, I wish my dad was here. Like, it's not that he wasn't grateful that you were there, that he's not grateful, but there was like a noticeable hole, right? Because he was like yearning to be supported by everybody, right? Yeah. And
that's fair. It's straight up fair.
But again, it's hard because you're like, whoa, wait a second. Like,
I done took work off to do this.
Yeah, like my presence, it felt
this
invaluable.
Don't count for nobody
right now. Exactly. Yeah. And so then to have the mental, emotional, like fortitude, really, to be like, okay, I can deal with this emotionally on my own later. But like, he doesn't need to be responsible for my emotions. He's already experiencing his own stuff. So, yeah, that's a unique one, I think. Like, so.
And there's so many things that kids do that, like, as a parent, you probably don't 100% want to do, but you know that it's good to support.
Yes.
And quite frankly, I'm probably worse at this than Chelsea. Chelsea loves being the kids' greatest cheerleaders, no matter what they do.
Literally everything.
I'm more like, I do it. Okay, I'm going to give myself the pat on the back for showing up. But also I do it sometimes. I'm like, yo, but my team is playing, the Jazz are playing.
Well, let's maybe give a better example. So Jax really loves being in tech crew. Okay, so he's not in the play. He has absolutely no desire to be in the play, but he does like the tech part. He likes doing the lights and the curtains and the sound and mic checks and making sure that they have the props that they're supposed to have and moving all the stuff onto the stage. Like, he likes that stuff. Now, Bedford hates plays. Like, I need to be so clear with you. He hates
I don't like plays for nothing, and there's not a good play.
Yeah.
So everyone's
I like
you gotta
going to certain plays. I don't love plays, but there are some that I really like. Bedford hates them, and he'll buy me tickets to like go with a friend or go with my mom or whatever, but he just does not want to go. So Bedford's like, okay, so now you're asking me to go to a high school or a middle school play,
Which
and
is
my
going to be
kid
trash.
isn't even in it, right? Like I'm not even going to be able to watch my child.
Which maybe we got to pause. Is your kid... This is a question. This is a question we're going to put out there. Is your kid in the play if he's in tech crew?
Yes.
Does that
so
count?
I actually posted the very first time that I went to the play, right? Because Jax puts in all the same time. I just want to be so clear that Jax is there for all of the same prep time. Like he has to stay after school. He doesn't come home until like
Practices.
7 because he has to be there to do all of the same stuff with the people that are in the play. So he is dedicating a lot of his time as well. And then every night that they run the play, he has to be there until like 9 or 10 o'clock at night. And so
He might even have to be there before and after everybody, honestly.
yeah,
But
so he still puts in the time. So there was the first time that I went to his play, I had like posted it on my Instagram stories and said like he's in the tech crew, so I'm not even gonna be able to see him. So I had actually brought my book and sat in the very, very, very back, and I read my book. And then afterwards, when they like said, "Hey, and this is our tech crew," I literally was one of like the only people that was like cheering for the tech crew, right? They also have like candy grams, and none of the tech crew ever gets candy grams because they're not in the play. But I posted it. And what I wanted to say is that there were so many people. That was actually one of the like stories that I remember getting so many responses from people saying I was in tech crew. Like, thank you so much for going, because I always felt like I had put in the same amount of time, and like the play literally would not happen if it wasn't for me.
that's true.
But nobody cared, like not even my parents. And so I like, but again,
Which as a parent, and I don't even like plays, it's rough for me. And quite frankly, if I do go to his play, I ain't watching the play.
yeah,
I'm gonna
and
put it out
that's
there.
the thing though, is that, and it's not that Bedford's not proud of him, right? It's just that he's like, I'm not even here to see. I can't even see him. I'm
I
not
can
even
see you
watching
flip
him.
the switch lights on and off and watch whatever I'm watching on YouTube with some headphones. At the same time, I don't need to listen to some terrible kid's voice.
Wow, don't be rude. Some of those voices are actually really good. They're in middle school.
Sure,
We're
and
not
if they're
talking
that
about,
good, then I'll see them in the future.
no, you won't, because you don't go to plays. But all of that being said, you know, it's like when your child is putting effort into something, they want recognition. And in our situation, they want it from
Their parents.
everyone,
Yeah.
right? And they have 4 parents here. So maybe let's pivot, because we kind of talked about this. Maybe let's talk about, did we, or like what was our plan regarding what Jax would refer to you as from the beginning?
Whatever you wanted.
Okay.
Like
And did that make you uncomfortable?
No.
Okay.
I just felt like that was the only thing that was fair, honestly.
Okay. So did it ever bother you that he didn't want to call you dad?
No?
Because he didn't for years. Like
Yeah, I was Bedford for,
probably 5 years.
3 to 5 years. And then it was when the other kids came into the picture that were also speaking and now calling me dad that he was like, oh, this is kind of weird. And
Well, and I think it started slipping in the beginning.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of like every once in a while
everybody
he
would
would
be
say
like, dad. And he'd
then
be
he
like,
would be
dad.
like,
And then,
yeah, or he would be like, Dad, I mean Bedford. Like
Yeah.
he would kind of just flip. But to be quite frank, I think he calls you dad 90% of the time now.
Yeah.
Yeah, like
it's more.
I mean, we're like 11 years in now, but I would say that he calls you dad more often than he calls you Bedford.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I've actually heard of a lot of people that force their children to refer to their other parent as dad or mom because they feel like it's respectful to them. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. First off, okay, we talked about this in the prior pod, but like the kid didn't get a choice, so we're not going to play this respectful bullcrap,
Yeah.
right? If you guys get separated or never got married and now they have a step parent and they're just along for the ride, I'm not with we're going to force respect. Things like you can call him Mr. whatever if you want to be respectful,
Sure.
but like call me Bedford, that's fine.
Sure.
Like I'm here in your life and it's not necessarily by your choice. It is my choice. I get to have a choice and mom gets to have a choice. But like, no, I'm not. I am actually horrifically against that. We're not forcing kids to call you dad. What better way to just soil that name
Right.
than make it be a forced title?
Right. Well, and I think that, you know, that's again something that differentiates our family dynamic from somebody who's living in a biological family unit is that like, you hear the term, like, everybody can be a father, not everybody, or a dad, but not everybody is a father, right? Like,
That's fair.
because you have biological parents that don't necessarily provide for their children. But there is a little bit of like, you are mine biologically, and that title just kind of comes with it. But I think that there is an earned, because when you look at like a child had a mom and dad, like Jax had a mom and a dad, and then that was separated and taken away. And for a long time, Jax actually had anxiety. Every time Bedford and I would get into an argument,
Which
he
happens.
would say, "Are
We
you
are
getting
not-
divorced?"
Ooh, spoiler alert, we're not perfect.
Yeah. I know you thought we were. But every time we get into a fight, Jax, even now, like, we try really hard not to fight in front of our kids, but obviously, like, we live in 1,800 square feet. Like,
They know.
they're going to hear, okay? And so, like, when we get in some of our bigger arguments, that I would say the bigger ones maybe happen a couple times a year, but Jax still is like, is everything okay? Are you getting divorced? Because
that
scares
learned.
him, right? And
Yeah.
so I think that, like, you have to prove some type of stability. There has to be a relationship there, because the title of dad means something. Like, it's not just I'm here and I take care of you and I provide for you or whatever, but like, being a father means something, or being a mother, right? And so to go into a situation and just force a child to put that title on to someone that has not yet proved that they care about that child, and I would say genuinely that yes, when we had other children, it changed, but also as Jax became more comfortable,
Yeah.
like, that title just naturally developed.
I think as well, on the flip side, I'm vehemently against, like, because you hear of maybe step parents or bonus parents who will not allow their kids to call that
Yes.
out of the same thing. And I'm vehemently against both.
Yes, that's
the kid
also,
gets to pick. You
yes.
don't, like, if the kid is so comfortable with you that they call you mom, okay,
that's-
congratulations, you won the lottery. You're
and
not,
that's like the way that they feel safe with
Yeah.
you, right? Like,
They
they're
deserve
showing
that.
Yes, they're showing, like, I feel safe
that's one
here.
of those situations where I feel like you get to be respectful of the kid.
Yes.
Like,
Well, and I think that for the most part, that's kind of how this goes, is like, we are all at now just trying to respect him. And like, obviously, if Jax is making bad choices or being disrespectful, which honestly doesn't happen very often.
He's a good kid.
He's a really good kid.
Yeah.
But like, you discipline your kid, right? But at this point, our sole focus as a blended family is to now support and raise Jax in the healthiest way possible.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of those things are his decision. Now, obviously, it's within reason. Okay, but we do allow Jax to have a larger hand in maybe how things get situated or organized than I would, not more than I would give my other kids, but more than I would have anticipated that we would. Like, I didn't really see that coming. But now I do feel like, if he has an extra day off of school and he says, like, I'd like to stay at my dad's for that extra day since I'm already there, sure, you can. As long as, like, I can facilitate it, I always will, right?
Yeah.
And so, and it used to suck because sometimes I'd be like, that's my time. Like, it's my time and you're choosing to spend it somewhere else.
But at the same time, like, it's always his time.
Yeah. Yes.
And that's something that parents probably don't think a lot of. They're like, oh no, my time with the kid. It's like, okay, hold on. You're right. It is your time with the kid, but it's also his time period.
His life.
His
like,
literal,
this is his life.
his life. And so, it's interesting that, the perspective that you have to have when you're having that conversation, because you do
Yes.
want to be with your kid. I love my kids. Want to be with them all the time. Actually, no, I don't want to be with
Not
them
all the time, but you want to have the option to be with them all the time.
Yeah. Also want to have the option to not. Okay. Which is where we are with them right now. Okay. But love my kids. But at the same time, like, Jax does not get to, he got stuck in the middle. Okay.
100%.
So if he wants to go hang out with his dads, it's his time. He can do that. If he wants to come hang out with us a little bit extra, or quite frankly with his friends that are based out of our house, he gets to do that as well. Because just because you two got divorced, quite frankly, just because your husband had an affair doesn't mean that he gets to have a life filled with turmoil.
Sure.
Just on the fact that he happened to be born to you guys before that happened.
Sure.
Like,
yeah, and I actually think a great example. So I remember you have to take like a divorced parenting class after you get divorced and if you have children. And I remember we were walking away. We went to the same class together, my ex-husband and I, so that we could be on the same page, so that we could know that we heard the exact same thing and we couldn't be like, well, that didn't get said in my class, right? So we were walking away and he was like, I know that there's going to be a time where Jax just wants to be with his friends, and maybe that impacts my time more than yours, because I mean, Jax's primary living situation is here. He goes to school where we are, you know, he is here most of the time. And for the first time, actually, Jax texts his dad this year. And again, I think this speaks volumes about how the four of us are trying to figure out how to work together for this. But he texted his dad and said, Dad, I know it's supposed to be my year for you to be with you for Halloween. But I really would rather just go with my friends. Is that okay? And his dad said, yeah, absolutely. Like, you do whatever you want to do. And so he really is getting it from both sides, like this level of support. And because that probably sucks for his dad too. So
again, that's another time where his dad probably lost 25 to 40% of the time he's going to see his kid this month.
Correct.
Which is nuts.
But then he put that aside.
Yep.
And said, I want my kid to be happy. This is what he wants to do with his own time. He's 13 years old. I support you. Right? So shifting gears into our home, like, you know, not considering his step parent or his dad and his stepmom, how does like being a blended family in our home, especially with like half siblings, etc., how does that maybe differentiate, do you think, from like an all biological family?
I think first and foremost, you never, as a step parent, and I think especially where I didn't have kids, I never considered, I knew it was going to be hard. I never considered how it was going to be hard. Not that how hard it was going to be, but how it was going to be hard. In what ways? In what ways, right? And I think the biggest thing that's really, really difficult is you are literally always, excuse me, I'm trying not to burp in the mic, but the biggest thing is that you're literally always considering how this is going to be perceived as a step parent.
Sure.
And as my kids, you know, as the rest of the kids, we like, you know, if I shout at Maya or Riker, hey, you got to clean your room, blah, 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 I'd never have to worry about whether or not he thinks I'm overcooking it because I'm his stepdad.
Yeah. Or even like there are times with our kids where we have to say, you weren't thinking, you know, like, and you're having these like very frank conversations about like, I'm disappointed in you, or I would have expected more from you. Mm-hmm. And those conversations specifically, you have to be like, okay, you know, yes, I would say this to any of my kids, but from his perspective, is he going to like view
I would say it? Like, for example, this actually happened recently, maybe 8 days ago. Jax is mowing the lawn, and he smacks with our lawnmower. We have an electric lawnmower.
Just runs right over
a giant water bottle.
A metal, like, stainless steel water bottle.
That was in the backyard that he actually put out there with his friends, right? Runs it over.
Yeah, really.
And I get back there, and I'm worried, A, about his health, because I hear a crunch, and I'm like, holy cow, that's huge. And I know he's mowing the lawn. And then I get back there, and I see that this water bottle's now destroyed. I'm worried about my lawnmower, because I can now see that he's healthy and he's fine. And then all of a sudden now I'm mad. I'm like, dude, what are you doing?
Yes.
Like, come on now. This isn't like, the thing was huge. It's giant. I think it's like a liter. You know, the thing is huge. I'm like, what could you possibly have been doing to where you didn't see that and you hit it with a lawnmower?
Right.
Right. And for me, the whole time I'm having this conversation, which needs to happen, because quite frankly, Jax needs to be safe and paying attention with a lawnmower.
Correct.
That could potentially cut like his toes off, right?
Correct.
So for his own safety, I've got to get on him.
Yes.
Or I have to mow the lawn, right?
Sure.
So the whole time I'm having this conversation, like, dude, this is too big. I'm like, okay, am I pushing it too far? Am I pushing it not too far? Like, and quite frankly, I think to a degree, like, there are times where Jax does not get the full, maybe, wrath.
He doesn't. At least from you.
No. And then, because I always have to be like, that's about it. Where the rest of my kids, they get the full, which might be like, maybe that's a pro for him. Like, hey, my parents got divorced, now I'm stuck in the middle, but I don't get Bedford's full heat.
I do think, though, because we've had this conversation on Instagram over the years, and every time I ask somebody what they think, like, the hardest part of blending families is, a lot of people, like, one of the top answers is easily disciplined. Mm-hmm. And I think that it's because there's a lot of things to consider, right? But one of my, like, the way that I feel about it is that it's hard to ask somebody to show up emotionally, physically, mentally, like educationally, financially. Like, I want you to pay for them. I want you to help them with their schoolwork. I want you to put them to bed. I want you to love them just as much as the other
Coach
kids.
their teams.
Yeah, I want you to do everything the same way that you do with our other children. But when it comes to discipline, you're not allowed to do that. And I think that that's wildly unhealthy for a family's dynamic. Now, that doesn't mean that you just like straight out the gates or like slamming your foot down, right? You do have to establish this pattern of like, this is what you can expect from me for everyone. You can expect this from me for you. You can expect it from me for the other kids, right? Because the problem comes in if he is not seeing the same consistent like discipline, right? So if he's seeing like, I feel like I get in trouble for everything and these guys can get away with murder, then you have a problem. But if you establish this baseline of like, this is consistent discipline for me straight across the board,
Yeah.
then it's better, right? But you cannot, because as a mom coming in with a child already, my biggest fear having more children was that they would not be loved or they would be loved more.
Yeah.
Right? And it would be so wildly unfair for me to say, I want you to love him the same, support him the same, show up exactly the same. However, he can be disrespectful to you and you're not allowed to say anything, or he can misbehave and you're not allowed to do anything about it. Like that, it's not even, like, it's not realistic. And so in order to have like a well-balanced relationship as a family, especially as a blended family, you have to have, everything needs to be balanced, right? So that being said, that is something we struggled with for years.
Yeah. I mean,
Years.
it was tough because, and it even got to the point where it was like, especially after we had Rye, it got to the point where it was like, I feel like you're protecting him a little bit.
I was.
And she was.
I was.
And then at the same time, I was like, I feel like you're getting more mad. And quite frankly, Rye was a tough second kid to have for a lot of reasons, right?
He was a tough kid.
He was a little a-hole.
But also going through some things that we just didn't really understand.
But we understand now, and we're working to get,
Yes.
Yeah, so he was a tough kid, but we love him. And I just remember, like, thinking to a point where it was like the kids even knew. They knew that, like, if Mom was getting on Rye, he would run behind me and be like, hold on. And I'd be like, what's going on? And especially if those two were fighting each other, because I think to a degree, kids aren't honest.
No.
Like, anytime you ask a kid what happened, they all tell their own version of the story. Like,
Whatever
every single one of
version's
them.
not going to get them in trouble.
Yeah. And there's a line, I remember when, like, Rye might still be the most honest of our kids.
That is one of his very good, strong
or
qualities.
Just poor strategy.
No, I think that he has a very strong moral compass.
Moral compass is super strong. He does not.
Jax closely follows him, and then the rest just get worse from there. The girls are a little bit sneakier.
I would say Jax is about as sneaky as maybe Mimi.
Maybe.
Yeah. But, so, I think with his, like, we would have these arguments, and then all of a sudden it was like, we got teams now. And this is not good.
And I think that, to be very fair, I think that I came into it, like, I had seen a very broken child, right? And, like, there was a phase where after his dad moved out, or when his dad was, like, with someone else, right, where he would walk around the house, like, lifting up blankets, opening up doors, calling for his dad, crying for his dad in the middle of the night. And I had, like, watched this, like, very broken child who was so confused and so, like, hurt by what had
blaming himself.
Blaming himself. He had some serious abandonment problems. That were all very warranted and made a lot of sense. And I kind of, like, promised myself I was never going to let anybody hurt him again. And, like, obviously I can't protect him from everything, but I went into this, like, this phase of my life where I was like, you can have whatever you want. I just want you to be happy. And I spoiled the crap out of that child. I really did. Holidays, just every time to the store. But, like, I was trying to repair it in like a tangible way because there was nothing else I could do. You know, I felt so helpless. And so I just bought him everything that he ever wanted. Like I just would buy him new toys or buy him, you know, take him to Chuck E. Cheese or whatever, literally anything he wanted. And going into a relationship, I wanted him so badly. I just wanted him to be perceived as like a great kid. And so whenever he would get in trouble for things, I was like, no, that's not like what he meant. He didn't mean it like that. Like you know, you're misunderstanding him, because I was so scared for a lot of reasons that like when we were dating, especially, that you would be like, okay, this kid is a bad kid, you know, and I wanted to justify to you that he was a good kid.
Which, quite frankly, if he was a bad kid, I would have been. Because, I mean,
Sure.
if you know anything about how we got started, I didn't want no kid.
Yeah.
That was not part of the long-term plan. And so...
And we discussed that in episode 1, so you're welcome to go back and listen to that.
Go back to it. But apparently, like, because Chelsea had a kid, I was going to take her on one date. We were going to go our separate ways from right there, not answer any text messages. And now 10, 11 years almost, we're still together. So worked out. So, well played, hon. Well played.
Thank you. But I think that's like, those were kind of where it was stemming from, is like trying to prove like he's a good kid. Like this overprotective aspect that I had over like this child that I had watched just like lose everything. Right. And so, and I was very protective of him with everybody. My parents weren't allowed to discipline him. Like it was only me. And I had a really hard time letting that go. And it caused a lot of problems. If I could do it over, I think I would probably invest in professional help.
Yeah,
for myself,
and I think that would
for
actually
you.
Be the right way, is to start right off the bat with professional help, so
for
that
everyone.
we can find the balance.
Yeah,
because I think for a while, I think there was a disconnect for me, because there are things that every kid is their own in their own way.
Yeah,
but there are things and behaviors that Jax does that I would not and currently still don't allow with the other kids. Little small nuance things that I'd be like, hey, you're interrupting, or that's rude, you were shutting that down. And now Jax has grown up and he has his own personality, and so there's things that probably may have never have changed. But I think as a step parent, you think about that. Like, I'm like, if I would have been able to maybe instill a little bit more of what I believed at the beginning, would it be a little bit different?
Sure.
And you think about that and you're like, what? Like, and not only just for like his behavior in the home, but really like his behavior in the world.
Yeah, sure.
Because there are little things here and there that I'm like, I don't know that that's going to fare well for him.
Sure.
But, and then of course I look at the rest of my kids and I'm like, well, I did try, and some of them still have some of those things that aren't going to bode very well. So you just like, you never know. You're like,
but I think you're left wondering a little bit, right? And so I think I definitely, you know, I feel like we've learned a lot, and we can probably offer a lot, you know, as far as like support for other people that are maybe just starting this, because we learned the hard way. But yeah, if I could do it again, I would definitely get professional like integration.
And I think one thing that we've always said, or that you've kind of taught me, and I remember the first time you taught me, I feel like Jax was doing something for the first time ever. And we were like, okay, well, how do we do this? And you're like, I don't know. I've never had a 4-year-old before. And it was like, oh, neither have I. And like, I think at that moment, me and you both knew, wait a second, we're at 6s. Now, while you have been a parent a lot longer.
Sure. And I knew Jax a little bit better. Right?
But this is our first time having a 5-year-old, 6-year-old, 7-year-old, 8-year-old, all the way up to 13, right?
All of his firsts now are both of our firsts.
Yeah.
And that's so a blessing for us.
I think that's something that I should have maybe understood earlier.
Yeah.
Like, hey, wait a second. This is the first time she has had a 3-year-old or a 4-year-old. And I think that's something that you would have benefited as well from understanding, like, wait a second, this is both of our first times having a 3-year-old. Now, granted, you have the context of our 3-year-old and who he is as a human being. And
I would say now, though, that
now it's about 6s.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, again, I understand Jax a little bit more just...
But you understand him because you understand him.
I feel like I understand all of our children a little bit on a deeper level just because of who I am as a person. I care to know all the details. I care to know how you're feeling. I care to hear about your emotions. Like I want to know those things. And it's not that to say that it's a bad thing not to. You're just not an empathetic person, and not everybody is.
Hold on. I am an empathetic person. I just choose when those things matter. Okay, if something is going on that I don't like, I'm not trying to hear what you're feeling.
No, I think you're capable of showing empathy. I just don't know that you are an empathetic person. I think that those are different.
Top 10 in empathy.
I think that those are different. I think that like being an empath, right, where it's like I care deeply about people's emotions, even if they're a stranger. I care. Like, and so I feel like I do understand all of our children a little bit differently than you do. But I think that now it's like Jax was 2 when we met. And so 11 years later, we've gone through the majority of his life together. And so who he is, what he likes, all of his behaviors, we have learned together.
Yeah.
And the only difference is that I saw the hardest part of his life. And even though he was so young, those years have an impact on who he is, right? And I watched those. And that's really the only difference. And I think that sometimes that is still something that like really, I feel like, I mean, we had some of those years that like, or we had some time that was just the 2 of us, right? And so there is like a part of Jax and I that is still just Jax and I, right?
Yeah.
And so, but I think that is like, those are just some of the hardest parts about being a blended family. So what is one thing, and we can wrap up on this, but what is one thing that if somebody is a step parent and they're having a hard time right now, just with integration and like understanding their stepchildren, and what is something that you would say to maybe help them improve that, or advice you would give?
One thing,
obviously there's a lot, and we'll talk about it, I'm sure, over time here, but
I think one thing is to probably take a little bit less of the burden, like personally, and quite frankly take the not even just personally, I think alleviate this is my fault, or this is his fault, or this is her fault type thing. Because at the end of the day, it's nobody's fault that you're in a tough situation. Yeah. And the more that you try to point and figure out, you're not going to get it. You're not going to figure it out. And I think for me, that's been something that I've improved at and still need to work at. Like, none of this is anybody's fault.
Yeah.
All right. The fact that it's difficult is simply because it's difficult. It has nothing to do with who the stepchild is, who the stepmom is, or who the parent is. It has nothing to do with any of that. You could mix in 3 other people, it would still be hard in different ways.
In one way or another.
One way or another.
Now, there are obviously parents out there, or step parents, that just insist on making things difficult. We have people that are really close to us that are going through some really hard times in that way, because they are trying to co-parent with people that make things very, very difficult.
This is true.
But maybe you're right, though, is what I'm saying, is like maybe you end up in a situation where the co-parenting is great, right?
But it's still hard. And I would probably venture to say, even the people that are having a difficult time with somebody being difficult, there's someone in there that's trying to blame someone for something being hard.
Yes.
Like, even if the person is being difficult, they're probably being difficult because they think someone's at fault for this or for that. Like, look, you're there. Yep. And I think for me, that's been something that makes a huge difference. It's like, F it, I'm already here. Yeah. Like, can we just have a good day? Like, we'll figure it out. We're gonna focus on the positive. Nothing is gonna get fixed tomorrow.
Sure.
So we're just gonna have a good day today, and you have enough good days today for a while, and everything is a little bit better.
Yeah. No, I really like that. I would say my piece of advice from my perspective, if you're going into a blended family and you're bringing your children with you, is to be patient. And then communicate. Yes. Like, your relationship, your marriage is and I think that in some ways I did this wrong, right? Jax was first, and I didn't know how to shift that. Like, I am a firm believer, even within a biological family dynamic, that it should be yourself first, then your partner, then your children, right? Now, obviously, we're not talking about hygienic care, et cetera, like safety, those types of things. We're just talking about in terms of where your energy is given when you have
maybe
the opportunity.
mental stability.
Correct. Like, or just how you nurture those relationships. Okay. Because we know a lot of people who their children, grow up and move out, and then their marriage is just, there's just nothing there because they have given everything that they have into their children. Now, it's not different, right? When you are in a blended family dynamic. And I think that I did this wrong for a while because I was so nervous about Jax getting hurt that it went Jax and then you and then me. And like almost the complete opposite. And so when you would express concerns or when you would, I became really defensive. I would listen to him over you. And that really, that was difficult. And so I think being able to communicate and say okay, these are my feelings. These are the things, maybe I don't agree with this parenting tactic. Can we step away and talk about it before we make decisions?
Which,
right?
If you have just a regular family, that's probably a good idea.
You should be doing that anyways.
Yeah.
But I think the point more so is that I think that in a biological family unit, a lot of people think that that's kind of just a given. But when you go into a blended family, there's this tendency to want to do it differently because you've been burned before. Yeah. And so you're like, no, my kids are freaking first because this marriage didn't last. So why would I put my husband first? But to be quite honest with you, the success of your relationship and the success of your family kind of starts with how you parent your children and the communication levels. Together. Yes, the communication levels that you maintain to be able to parent your children on the same level, right? And that doesn't mean you agree all the time, but it does mean that you're willing to make concessions or sacrifices here and there so that you can feel like you're on level ground. So, I think we can just wrap there. Okay. And I mean, we'll probably have versions of this conversation over and over again just in different lights and different perspectives. And, but thank you guys for being here. If you find it useful, if you liked it, please subscribe, share, comment. If there's something that you want to talk about in the future, please leave it in the comments. We obviously would love to hear your opinions as well. So if you have opinions or thoughts, please share them below.
Yeah. And let's be honest, we want to hear it. So if you're like, yo, this is trash, tell us.
Oh, yeah. If you hate it and you're like, no, I don't agree with this at all, or this sucked, it wasn't enjoyable to listen to, please go ahead and share that feedback. We would love it.
Anyway.
Okay.
We love you guys. Stay blessed.